Okay, we are on 22b2 at the bottom. The Gemara says as follows. Al kol metim kulan korea tefach. The halacha is that when someone passes away, and whenever we say kol metim, who are we talking about? Everyone but, besides for a person's parents. Al kol metim kulan korea tefach. The person rips, just go on mute, if that's okay. All right? The halacha is that you korea tefach, a person tears the beged tefach. How big is a tefach? One hand's breadth. When it comes to a father or mother bar minan, there the person has to reveal the heart. And we said already, what happens if you already did a tefach but it didn't get to the heart? You need to rip more. Okay? Amar Rabbi Abahu, Doron, we need just go on to mute if that's okay. Yeah?
Is the ripping like a
make him mute.
Like a
there we go. I think I made him mute. Huh?
Is the ripping like a part of the avails process, or is it like a?
What do you mean?
I mean, like, is it part of the action? The avail sitting and the ripping, or is it like a? If you don't rip it,
no, ripping is the element of yeah. It's its own separate mitzvah. It's not
separate item.
It's not part of the sitting.
Right.
It's kiriyah that upon hearing the news or upon going back to the house. Okay. So for the father, ad shigalet libo. Amre Abahu, my kirah. What does the pasuk say? Vayachazek David begadim vaykarem. He held on to his begadav, his clothing, and he tore them in the avelut. And achiza pachot mitefach. When a person is grabbing something, how do you grab it? In your fist. So obviously the measurement for Kiriyah is the measurement of achiza, and en achiza pachot mitefach. The Gemara continues. Al kol that metim kulam. So for any other death other than father and mother, afilu lavush asara chalukin eno korea el elyon. Let's say the guy is wearing 10 shirts. I don't know why the guy is wearing 10 shirts. Maybe he's boarding a plane and they're charging too much for hand luggage. But whatever the case is, the guy's wearing 10 shirts. He finds out that he has to tear. What's the halacha? Eno korea ela elyon. He only rips the outermost beged, the topmost beged. Al aviv alimo korea et kulan. But if he gets the news and he needs to tear bar minan for father and mother, and he's wearing 10 shirts, korea et kulan, you rip all of them. But the handkerchief that he's wearing, it does not hold back. Now, me'akevet usually means, like if a person, let's say a person spoke after netilat yadayim, so we say, ena me'akev. It doesn't hold back the tefillah, the washing of the hands. You're able to continue as if you washed your hands. Shouldn't do it, but if you did it, then it would be okay. Ena me'akev. So there's two ways to understand this. One way to understand ena me'akev means that if I tore all 10, but I didn't tear the handkerchief, so that's not considered like I did not tear, or I didn't tear something. Now remember, the handkerchief was not a hanky in the pocket. The handkerchief, according to most opinions, was something that they wore over one of their shoulders. But since this piece of cloth covered a shoulder, it could be considered an element by its element a beged, and therefore it might have needed to be ripped. Says the Gemara, even though it covers over, since that's not its purpose, it does not have to be torn. Echad, that's one opinion. Other opinion is that if he's wearing it over his shoulder, now it's covering over the tear. So the guy tore his beged. Now he's covering it over with something. Which beged do you need to rip? The outermost beged, so it's obvious that you're a mourner. But now the handkerchief is covering the rip. So the other opinion says, ena me'akev means, even if it's covering over the rip, that's still okay. We're not worried about it, the fact that it's being covered by this handkerchief. Echad ha'ish ve'echad ha'isha. Both men and women have an obligation to tear their clothing when it comes to avelut. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says, ha'isha korat et ha'tachton u'machzirato la'achorea. Let's say a woman, obviously, we're talking about a scenario over here where a woman has to tear both clothing, both items of clothing, right? Mm-hmm. Why? Because if we're talking about a case which is not avivi imo, how many layers would she need to tear? One. Only one. Now we're going to tell you she's going to tear more than one. Obviously, we're talking about where? Avelut on aviv imo, father or mother. So the woman, what does she do? She has obligation now to tear open two objects of clothing. Problem is, that's not modest, that she's now revealing herself in the house of the Avelim. So what does she do? First, she reaches under the outermost beged, the outer one, so she goes to the inner one, and she tears the inner one. Then she revolves the inner one to move around to the back. So now where's the tear? She's rotating it. Now remember, if you're wearing a shirt, this doesn't work. But they were wearing mostly like robe type clothing. So things were just laying on top, so you could rotate it. But the idea would still be the same. Let's say the person had a tear underneath. What do? You tear underneath. Then you just move the place of the tear to the right, or to the left, or to up or down, so it doesn't match, and then you tear the outermost beged. So there the tears...
Over the heart?
Sorry?
Wasn't it supposed to be over the heart? You cut over the heart?
Correct.
And you're moving it.
Correct, but I'm allowed to move it once I already ripped it.
Oh.
Okay?
So you're saying that one doesn't tear up here, one tears over here?
We're going to get to where it is in just a bit, okay? But for right now, we're talking about tearing on a lady, and she would tear the bottom beged and then move it, and then tear the top beged. Now she's got a top beged that's torn, but there's something underneath that that's guarding it. Says the Gemara, Al kol hametim kulan, on all people that pass other than father and mother, Ratzah mavdil kameh safa shelo, Ratzah ena mavdil. Sometimes a person, he could decide to go beyond the border, and Ratzah, if he doesn't want, ena mavdil, he does not go beyond the border. What does that mean, beyond the border? I want you to imagine for a minute like a V-neck t-shirt, okay? Now, the t-shirt ends in a point. The tear ends in a point. Imagine a person was to tear from the top of that point straight down. It might just look like there's a t-shirt which is open. It's not obvious that there's a tear for avelut. It just looks like the t-shirt is open, right? Now, since that's the case, so what do we do in order to ensure it? Says the Gemara, when it's all other avelim, so we're not as strict on the avelut. You could tear from on the top straight down, or you could tear from underneath the edge, like a slit from underneath the edge and then tear from underneath. However, al aviv alimo mavdil, but for his father and mother, mavdil, he separates the edge of the beged and begins underneath the edge of the beged. Okay? And from there he tears. So it's quite clear that there's a tear in this beged only for the sake of avelut, not just to let in air from the top and have a lower hanging V-neck. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, not true. Well, you just said that it's only true about avivi imo, not true. Kol kiri'ah she'eno mavdil kameh safa shelo. Anytime a person tears in the aforementioned manner, where you're tearing from the top further down, and it's not obvious at all that there's kiri'ah, enno ella kera shel tiflut. It is a tearing of tiflut, of stupidity, of uselessness, because no one can see. No one can see what you've done. So what point is it? So it doesn't make a difference. Father, mother, sister, brother, that's not even called a tear, because by definition, the avilut needs to be something that is evident as a tear. Okay? Says the Gemara. Amar Rabbi Abau. Rabbi Abau says, by the way, just to revert back, just for 1 second. We mentioned earlier this idea of afikaro suto, and we translated that as his kerchief or a handkerchief, and he wears it over the shoulder. He blows his nose in it, whatever he does with it. But it's there on the shoulder. Another opinion says that afikaro suto is not his handkerchief, but rather an undergarment. Okay, and when it comes to an undergarment, since an undergarment, why would you not need to rip it if you're ripping all the layers? The answer is the undergarment's purpose is not as an object of clothing, it's an object to protect the person from sweat. It's supposed to absorb the sweat so the sweat doesn't go through to his clothing. So therefore, since it's not an object of clothing, it's not as much of a garment, so therefore it would not be required to rip it. So the Gemara says, if that's the case, why are we so bothered with women tearing and moving their clothing? Anyway, she'll have an undergarment underneath. And the answer is, when something is evident as an undergarment, it's also indecent that a woman should be seeing her bra, or be seeing, because that's also something which would not normally be seen by anyone other than her husband or someone she'd want to see it. So therefore, we mentioned the idea of rotating the beged or of moving the whole. Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Abau. Rabbi Abau says, "My tamad Rabbi Yehuda." why does Rabbi Yehuda say that if you're not tearing it separately to the edge of the V, like after the hole, after the border, that it's not considered to be kirya? Dichtiv, because the pasuk says, "Vayichazek bebigadav, vayikraem l'shnayim kiraim," and he held onto his clothing, vayikraem, and he tore them l'shnayim kiraim, to 2 tears, into 2 pieces. Says the Gemara, anytime you take a piece of material and you tear it, by definition, what do you have? 2 pieces. So we didn't need the pasuk to tell me that he grabbed the beged and he tore it into 2 pieces. It's always mimashma sheneemar v'yikarem en yodea shehen l'shnayim. Once you tell me that he ripped it, automatically I know it's 2. Ella, rather, why did it say he ripped it into 2 tears? Shenir'in kiruim kishnayim. It looked like there were 2 tears. So when a person has a V-neck, that's the 1 tear. You know, the famous joke goes, does your socks have any holes in it? Your socks have any holes in it? How'd you get your feet in? You understand? So there's always 1 hole. It's a great joke to tell your grandson. Can I go one for your grandchild? Yeah, it's a great grandpa joke for your grandson. Your socks have holes in it? No! How'd you get your feet in? Right? So every beged that has the hole for the head, right? Automatically, that was on the spot. Every beged already has 1 tear, the hole. What's the second tear? Shnayim kiraim. That's the tear of the avelut. So therefore, Rabbi Abahu is telling you that's Rabbi Yehuda developed this idea that every kiriyah has to be seen as 2 distinct tearings, the opening of the beged and separately the other item. Now, by the way, it's interesting. When a person is wearing a button-down shirt, so how do we tear? We tear into the beged. But that's not the case. Let's say a person is wearing a shirt like this. So when you tear, it's open. And then when you tear, you're tearing further down. So that's just a continuation of the opening.
You go this way, huh?
So again, if you go sideways, that indicates a separate tear.
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
You're thinking we just went like that.
I'm giving the
You
example.
extended the seam down there, it wouldn't be torn.
Correct.
It looks just
It wouldn't look to, just look longer.
It's like the ripped dungarees now. They wear holes in
Ripped
them.
dungarees, or in general, where a person has when their shirt is open, open. Okay. So therefore, that is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, and he holds that opinion regardless of parents or other metim. Al kol metim kulan, on all other relatives besides her father and mother. Sholel le'acha shiv'ah u'ma'achel le'acha shiloshim. He's allowed to baste after 7, u'ma'achel le'acha shloshim, and sew after 30. So what is this basting and sewing? So if a person is basically taking the hole and stitching it up, but not stitching it up to a point where it's not noticeable, just closing the hole. After 7 days, a person's already allowed to baste it, to sew it loosely, ya'ani, okay, with larger stitches. When it comes, so you still see that it's torn, and it's still evident that the beged I'm trying to keep.
Why would he need to do that at all? Though?
Sorry?
Why would he want to sew it at all?
After 7 days?
Yeah, but it's ripped. You're saving the big?
Yeah, he wants to wear it still.
To save it. Okay.
Remember, we live in a world of throwaway.
He has 10 shirts.
They had 1 shirt.
Yeah, but,
The guy, they couldn't afford another one.
but it's the shirt you wore during...
Yeah, this is the halakha. Halakha is that you're allowed,
Never goes away. Though.
most people throw it away, bad jujus, right? They don't want it. However, says the halakha, person is sholel la'achar shiva, he's allowed to sew it after 7, ma'achel la'achar shloshim. And then after 30 days, if he wants to sew it up properly, to the point where you can't even see that there was a hole, that is also mutar. Just an interesting note on this, we do not basically practice. The opinion was that when a person is sewing after 7 loosely, so we compared any closing up of it to each other. So in other words, in the shiva, would you be allowed to sew it in the shiva?
No.
Even loosely? No, because it says after 7, right? So according to the Rama holds, Ashkenazim hold, right? According to the Rama, that if there's during the time when you're not allowed to sew it loosely, you're also not allowed to pin it. Now, I don't know if you realize this. By the men, what do? You tear it and you leave it open. By the women, they tear it and then they pin it. also because of modesty.
Right.
Okay? So again, you're seeing this idea of the modesty of the women, and that would be pinning even during the Shiva. No problem.
None applies to the 10-shirt guy.
Sorry?
The 10-shirt guy. We don't have to.
That's a lot of pins right there. That's it.
Sewing.
Yeah, he's going to be a pin cushion by the end of the Shiva. Okay. Vayisha, says the Gemara, Vayisha shodadato, but a woman, as we said, is able to close up the altar immediately. So how do we say close? Not close to eliminate it, but close it with loose stitching. Or in our case, close it with a safety pin. Now the Gemara says other ideas like this. Ravin came to Rabbi Yochanan. Al kol metim, any death other than parents, if he wants, he could tear with his hand. If he wants, he could tear with a vessel, i.e., let's say a razor or a scissor. On his father and on his mother, biyad, a person has obligation to do so with his hand. What do we do today? We start with the scissor,
And then rip it.
and then we get the guy there, because it's very hard to tear. So what do they do? Unless you're Hulk Hogan, who just alav shalom, right? He passed away this week. We say kaddish, right? So if you would tear, it would be very difficult to tear like that. So what do? They cut across the item, and then you rip it. Now people think you have to cut with a scissor. No, only cutting with a scissor to make it easier for you to be able to cut by hand. Now, when it's not father or mother, then you can cut the whole thing, can be with a scissor. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan. Now, what's interesting over here?
Do we hold to that?
Sorry?
Do we do that? Do we hold to that?
What do you mean?
Using just a scissor to make the cut? I never saw it.
For others?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's halakha. But what's interesting over here is that this idea of biyad. Earlier on, I remember if we saw the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. And the Gemara asked, why does Rabbi Yehuda hold that way? And the Gemara brought a pasuk. The pasuk says, because David grabbed his beged, right? Vayechazek David bebegadav, vayekarem. So David tore with his hands. This other pasuk that we saw, right? Vayechazek bebegadav vayekarem l'shnaim kiraim. Again, same idea. We're again talking about this concept of tearing with one's hands. So in both cases, both with regards to Elisha and with regards to David HaMelech, they were both tearing with somebody's hand. So the same way you told me that I should learn tefach from that pasuk, because en achiza pachot mitefach, because if he's grabbed with his hand, how big is that? That's the size of his fist. That's the shiur. Then we found later on that he can't tear from a V-neck, from this other pasuk. So why didn't we learn from those pasukim that it has to be done by hand? And in both cases, the person that was being mourned was not a parent. Right? What were the two pasukim? Ve'echazek David begadav v'yikarehem v'gam kol ha'anashim asher ito ve'elisha ro'a v'hu mitzaek avi rachel v'yisrael v'yashav. Who's Elisha crying over? Eliyahu Hanavi. So in both cases, it was not the death of a parent. And you see, they were tearing biyad. Mm-hmm. So there's a question here: why did we not bring the proof from there that it has to be done biyadayim? Okay.
High level?
Sorry.
High level examples of very high level guys.
Interesting.
Ripping.
Interesting. Okay.
Take a higher road than just.
You mean the person they were tearing for was chashuv?
Yes.
Okay, interesting. I would agree with you on one, but maybe not on the other. On the one was Eliyahu Hanavi, very high level. On the other one was David HaMelech tearing over his rebellious son. Right? Was definitely not a Talmid Chacham.
Okay, I didn't know.
A Talmid
I didn't know.
He wasn't good.
Talmid for his rabbi.
He knows about
Sorry?
Or a Talmid for his rabbi.
Or you could distinguish Elisha, that Talmid for his rabbi is considered like his father. But you can't say that by David HaMelech. All right? Anyway, says the Gemara. Now, you know why? Because we could play games. You want to play games? Let's play games. Maybe the reason why David HaMelech tore that way is just because he wasn't near a scissor. Elisha tore that way because he didn't have a knife, so he used his hands. Okay.
Or a garment was
okay. So then don't tell me Achiza is dafka.
Right.
tells you a tefach, because maybe he just grabbed it with his hand.
I wouldn't have used these examples, it was just a question of convenience.
No.
It's not a lesson for the ages.
No. So we'll have to come back to this idea to see if we hold like this halacha. We'll come back to it Be'ezrat Hashem in the end of this sugya. Says the Gemara.
It would have to do with what kind of garment you're wearing. See.
What do you mean?
So the garments that are frayed, right? Like you said, the olden days, easy to tear with your hand, very easy.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think scissor even. You don't need a scissor. It just rips. It's already ripped.
It's not only frayed. Let's say it's not frayed.
Like a V-neck has a seam.
Let's say it's not frayed. The question is, does it have a border?
Okay, the border is usually hard.
So the
to cut.
border makes it hard to cut. Let's say it's not. Let's say it's very tough material, but you have the edge.
You can do it.
Very easy.
Like a
Because
towel.
there's already
It's easy.
It's very easy. Why? Because the material
going
gives
that
you
way.
an opening.
Right.
And when you pull, it actually creates a tension in exactly the tearing spot, and then it tears easily. Okay? So, but again, we have no proof from the pasuk if it was that kind of beged or not. Okay, says the Gemara. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Abba says the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Al kol hamitim kulam bifnim. On all relatives, except for a person's father or mother, kulan he tears me bifnim, from inside, on the inside. Al aviva alimo korem bachutz. When it comes to father and mother, he tears it on the outside. Okay, so the what does it mean on the inside, on the outside? He's able to do it in a covered manner. Okay, when it comes to father and mother, there's a greater expression of mourning. So there, it has to be done on the outside. So as an example, let's say a guy has a coat on, so he goes underneath the coat and he tears. So you didn't see that he tore. Okay, so on any other relative, no problem. When it comes to a parent, he needs to tear mibachutz, which would mean he should take off the cloak from the outside, and then now you ask me a question.
Cut the cloak.
Huh?
Cut the cloak.
Cut the cloak. Why?
It's outside.
No, but ask it better.
He's wearing
How many? If I had 10 shirts, how many shirts I have to tear for a father?
10.
All. So why don't I have to cut the coat? Yeah, I'm telling you, you can't cut from under the coat. Cut the coat too. What's the answer?
It's hard.
Come on.
Garment?
Scissor.
No. Huh?
It's not a garment
Why?
because
Comes
it
off?
comes on and off.
No, not because it comes on. So does a shirt. What did I tell you about an undershirt?
Oh, it's to protect against sweat.
it's for the-
So this is to protect
It's
against
the cold. The same reason why the undershirt is not a beged,
Squeezing at the same
the
time.
coat is not the beged. By the way, today, you have this all the time, people will wear sweaters at the Shiva. You don't rip a sweater. You don't do kriya on a sweater. Why not? Same thing. It's for warmth. It's not an item of clothing. By the way, we know what the proof is? When the ladies get cold, they have these throws. You're not wearing a garment, it's a blanket.
They're cold.
You're surrounding yourself in a rug, right? But you're just doing it for warmth.
Does the tzitzit, a garment, undergarment count?
So it's important to understand. I would say generally no today.
Today, no.
Why?
Because
It's
you're...
a sweat thing.
No, your tzitzit are not sweating.
It's part of your
It's over
clothing,
your-
apparel.
The tzitzit is not there for sweat.
Well, it's there to
It's a beged.
to be in the uniform.
It's a beged. So why don't you tear it?
I don't know.
So the answer is it would depend. Today, we wouldn't tear a beged tzitzit. Why? Because it's not an article of clothing. Why are you wearing tzitzit?
Religious only.
In order to put tzitzit on.
Yes, religious reasons.
Back then, when we talked about tzitzit on al kanfei bigdechem, they weren't wearing a separate pair of
That was
tzitzit.
it. That was the shirt.
That was their shirt. Their shirt had, and by the way, you see this over here? You see this over here, right here? Right here, end of my shirt,
You have a little...
4 corners.
Yeah.
Tzitzit? No, it's not big enough. If it was big enough, have an obligation to put tzitzit on it. Then you would have to tear it. Because it's a shirt I put tzitzit on. Not a beged tzitzit that I only am wearing in order to wear tzitzit.
Follow the mitzvah.
You got it? Which is a little bit of a challenge, I have to say.
I
Just,
think you have 6 corners. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that'll be your sif.
no, these don't count. This, you mean?
Oh, around the base.
Should only be 2. 2 and 2. Where would I have
There's 2 more corners there.
2 here and 2?
2, and you have 2 more here.
Where?
You don't have buttons all the way down?
No. That's the whole point of this shirt. This shirt is meant so that when you close your jacket, it looks like you're wearing a dress shirt.
And you can play
And
tennis when you take it off.
and now you can wear it in the pool.
And tennis.
And you could tear it for Kiriyah, Hasu Shalom. Okay? So, the halakha would be, if this shirt had a tear that was higher on the side, then you could wear it for Tzitzit. And they make them, by the way.
Halfway up.
They make these shirts now.
But you have to have
There's a company called Sene, I think it's called,
you told us.
or Solo, either Sene or Solo Tzitzit. And you can see they have beautiful shirts that cut up the side, but the buttons down on the outside, and then they have tzitzit on them. Okay, so a shirt like that you would have to cut. Now, says the Gemara. So when a person is tearing for anyone but a parent, they have an obligation to tear. They could tear b'bifnim. When they're tearing for a parent, then they would tear mibachutz on the outside to be able to illustrate.
So that's a suit jacket and a shirt.
Sorry,
No
Suit
suture.
jacket and a shirt.
what do you mean?
Suit jacket.
You don't have to cut.
So on a parent, you would cut a suit jacket and a shirt,
Yes.
not a coat.
Not a coat.
Okay, fine. Says the Gemara. V'chen l'nasi. Amar Rav Chizda. Says Rav Chizda. V'chen l'nasi. Also for a nasi, when you're talking about someone who is the leader of the generation, also we have the halakha that you have to tear on the outside of the beged in order, why? To illustrate that there's a higher level of mourning. Let's continue. So, the Gemara says, Metve, let's ask a question on this idea of V'chen le'nasi. Lo ushvu la'aviv li'imo, ela li'ichyui bilvad. When we compared, we equated. Hushvu means like lehashvot, to make something the same. They are not compared, they're not the same, only ela li'ichyui bilvad, only with regards to sewing. But when we compared these other ones that are compared to father and mother, when we compare them, we only compare them with regards to sewing. My love, afilin nasi. Is it that this is also the nasi? So let's just review what we mean over here. The Braita over there is finding other cases that are compared to father and mother. So other people who are not your father and mother, but that are compared to your father and mother. And when the Gemara compared various people to your father and mother for levels of mourning, so it said that they were only compared with regards to sewing. Now, what does that mean compared with regards to sewing? If you remember, we talked about sholeh la'achar sheva and ma'achel la'achar shloshim, but avivi mo sholeh la'achar shloshim ve'enu ma'achel le'olam. That when it comes to a father or a mother, you're never ever able to repair it completely, the tear. Okay, so says the Gemara, we found this idea that we're not comparing them only to with avivim with regards to sewing up, that you'll sew lightly or with big stitches after 30, and you will never sew up completely even after 12 months. On that, the Gemara said, "My love, feeling nasi is that even for nasi." So no, the Gemara says, "Lo, levad min nasi." All the other ones are compared only with regards to ichui, sewing, nothing else, none of the other restrictions of father and mother. But nasi is relevant even for these other ones, such as tearing inside and tearing outside. Says the Gemara, Nisi'ah, we had a situation where the Nasi, the leader of the generation, Shaviv, passed away. Amale, Rav Chizda le Rav Chanan Baraba. Rav Chizda said to Rav Chanan Baraba, Kfe asita, v'kum mala. Turn over asita and stand on it. V'achri krilama. Turn over the mortar, the brick, okay? And then stand up on it and tear le'alma. Let everybody see that you're tearing for the Nasi, and they should also do the same, and they should also copy you for it. Now, there's something over here which I think is a little bit strange. Take 1 second, look at Rashi, about 5 lines from the bottom. Kfi asita, hafoch ha'machteshet, ve'amod alea. Turn over the machteshet, and, right, the vessel, stand on it, and tear. Kidei shirucha kol ha'am kishtikareh. So Rashi says, I want you to turn over the vessel.
Are you standing on something for height reasons to get up to tear it?
Over here, yes. Now, the problem with that is that because that's what the Gemara means, we have a little bit of a problem. Since Rashi says that the point is to see everyone should see that you're tearing for the nasi and do like you, right? Since that's the point, now we're stuck because that doesn't prove anything over here. Okay, let's review. When it comes to a father or mother, where does a person tear? Outside. Where do they not tear? Inside. Okay. Said the rabbi, who was it? Rav Chizda, that nasi also tears outside. V'bachutz. Now the Gemara says, let me tell you a story. Nasi passed away. The rabbi told him, right? Rav Chizda said to Rav Chanan bar Rava, turn over the brick, turn over the pot, whatever it was, stand on it, and let everyone see that you're tearing for the nasi. So you see from here, that you must tear outside for the nasi. That's a bad example. Why? In the open, in other words. You could also tear under a coat. So let's say I'm not tearing the coat, that's under. Outside for a parent. Rav Chizda, including a nasi. Okay? Says the Gemara, Rav Chizda once told the rabbi, turn the thing over and tear berabim so that everyone should see you, and therefore we see from here the idea of Rav Chizda in action. Problem is, this is not the idea of Rav Chizda in action. Let me explain why. Let's say a person is tearing for their parent inside, underneath. Did they fulfill? No. Why? Because they didn't show enough of an expression of kiryah. It needs to be torn on the outside, correct? Who is that about? That's about, no, but who is it about that kiryah? That kiryah is about me and how I tear, not me, bar minan, someone, right? It's about the way that you tear. I'm not showing anyone else anything. Yeah, it's a level of mourning thing. Here, the halacha is that everyone tears for a nasi. Rav Chizda said, get on the brick, tear on the brick so everyone could see, so that everyone will learn from you to tear. That doesn't tell me. Let's say as an example, perfect example, the last person to find out that the nasi had died, the last person, everyone else already tore. Okay? Last person to find out was Rav Chizda and Rabbi Chanan bar Rava. Would he have told him to stand on the brick, on the pot and rip? No. Because again, Rashi is telling you in order that they should see you and do the same. So you have no proof from here that that's the halacha for tearing for a nasi. The reason why he did it is because he was the rabbi. And the people maybe did not know. And he was instructing them by ripping in a public manner that they also have to rip. The public ripping of a father is not to instruct everyone else to rip. It's got to, so the two have nothing to do with one another.
One is to show, and one is for his own.
So the two have nothing to do with one another.
Standing on the mortar is the inference that it's for someone else public.
For someone else to see, exactly. You never have an obligation to do that for a parent. So the Gemara is bringing it seemingly as a proof of this idea, but actually it doesn't prove this idea at all. Clear? Okay. So we have a question on the Gemara, and we're going to leave with this question because I don't have a good answer to this. Okay? Says the Gemara, Al Chacham choletz miyamin. For a Chacham, where does a person tear? Miyamin, on the right side. Who is that compared to?
Parents.
No. Everybody other than parents. Okay? Remember, only parent you tear on the heart. Right. That's not the right side, it's left side. Right? Left side.
Including you.
Left side. For a parent, left side, by the heart. Okay? Yeah? For anyone else, right side. Says the Gemara, Chacham passes away, choletz miyamin. You bear the shoulder on the right side. Al-av bedin, when a person who is the head of the bedin passes away, that's a much more prestigious Chacham in the community, then we bear the shoulder on the left side. Al-nasi, it comes to nasi, on both sides. So they would take their shirt and pull it down beyond their shoulder blades, okay? Again, remember, they did not have shirts like we have, okay? They would pull it down and it would bear both shoulders, and that would illustrate that the people were sitting in mourning. Gemara says, Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in the Braita, Chacham shemet, when a Chacham passes away, Bet Midrasho Batel. His Bet Midrash, the place where he studied, with his talmidim, with his students, that Beit Midrash batel. They don't learn in that house of study, in that place of Beit Midrash. Rather, they engage in the process of avelut. Okay. And how long does this last for? One opinion is one day, the day of the passing. The second opinion is, even for all 7 days, the students, they're not in mourning, but they have to exemplify, they have to show the mourning of losing their chacham. So instead of studying in Beit Midrash, they would study separately as chavrutot in other places, but not here. Okay? So the Beit Midrash itself, out of respect for the rabbi, is empty and silent. Okay? Av Beitin, right? But important to add that to what we said is that it does not mean that the students don't study Torah. The prohibition against studying Torah is only for people that have Hayub Avelut. Okay? Av Beitin Shemet. What about an Av Beitin? So when it comes to a Chacham, his Beit Midrash is his Beit Midrash. Av Beitin, the head of the Beitin, of all this, head of everything. All of the Beit Midrash in the city, batel. Nobody studies in any of the Beit Midrash. They go into the Beit HaKnesset, they go to instead to the Beit HaKnesset, umishanim et mekomam, and they change the place where they sit. Hayoshvim mitzafon, yoshvim madaron. People who sat in the front, they sit in the back. The ones that sit in the back sit in the front. At this point, no, we're talking about Av Beitin. Okay?
It's Av Beitin's guys, his students, right?
Sorry?
This would be all the students in
All his students.
All of the students in the city.
They respect. They have they change their practices for this guy. Right?
Yeah.
In his honor.
They don't pray.
Normal way. Okay.
They don't pray. What's it called? They don't pray in the same place, and they don't study in the study halls. They study at homes or wherever they're gonna study.
So people know.
Okay. Now it's not clear, by the way, if this entering into the Beit Knesset is where they would study. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, do we mean that they couldn't learn in the Beit Midrash, so instead they went to the Beit Knesset? Because it's unclear. See, look. Av Beitin shemet kol Beit HaMidrash be'iro betelin. V'nichnasin leBeit HaKnesset. It sounds like, and they go to the Beit Knesset. Meaning, the way that they change their process of Beit Midrash is by going into the Beit Knesset. So imagine, instead of learning here at this table, you go learn upstairs in the shul. That's a change, and that illustrates the Avelut.
Same level. Nasi is Nasi, right?
No. So there's Chacham, there's Av Beitin, the head of the Beitin. Then you have the Nasi. Nasi is like the prince. So as an example, all the Nisiim, not only were they great rabbis, right, in their own right, they also had to come from the tribe of King David. So as an example, Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, Rabban Gamliel, they all come Malchut Bet David.
So Nasi is a very high level of a person.
Correct.
To do this stuff.
Correct. So you had many generations where there was a Nasi, two rabbis, and an Av Beitin. And they were like partners, two great rabbis that would run the community.
So we don't now.
Okay? Yeah. Says the Gemara. So, Nasi Shemet. Now we're going to talk about a Nasi. We just talked about Av Beitin. When a Nasi dies, Batei Midrash Kulam Betelin. All the Batei Midrash are closed. Bnei HaKnesset, and the people who are going to the Beit Knesset, Nichnasin, the Beit HaKnesset, they go into the Beit HaKnesset, the Kor'in Shiv'ah, the Yotzin. They read 7 aliyot from the Torah, and then they leave. In other words, there's an abbreviated element to...
Prayers.
Sorry?
To the prayers.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. All right? Yeah, now look at Rashi for 1 second. The Korin Shiva. See it? First Rashi on the page. You guys see the Rashi? Right there. Up here. The Korin Shiva, they read 7, B'Sefer Torah. The En Mitpalin Yachal Bet HaKnesset, They don't pray together. אלא כל אחד ואחד מתפלל בביתו. So what does everybody do? Not only are we not gathering in the Beit Midrash, not only are we coming to shul and just swapping south, north, north, south, west, east, east, west, what we're doing is we're staying home for the whole of the prayers. The only thing we're coming to shul for is the aliyot. You read 7 aliyot, and then everyone goes home. On Shabbat. And if it was during the week, you would read 3. But you would come, read 3, go home. Yeah. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Korcha, no, nothing. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Korcha Omer, Rabbi Yehoshua ben Korcha says, Lo sheyelchu v'yitaylu b'shuk. Now, the point is not that everyone goes to Saint Tropez. Ela yoshvim v'domin. Rather, the people are sitting at home, they're quiet, they're in a state of mourning over the death of the Nasi. Okay? Correct. They'll start afterwards. A person does not say, we don't teach Torah and Agadah in the house of the Avel. Amru alav Rabbi Hananya ben Gamliel. But, no, Te'ilim is not Talmud, and it's not, and it's not Agadah. Amru alav Rabbi Hananya ben Gamliel. They said about Rabbi Hananya ben Gamliel, Shaya omer Shmu'a v'Agadah bet Avel. He actually used to do this. He would say over Shmu'a v'Agadah in the Bet Avel, okay? And the question is exactly when he did this. In other words, was it on Shabbat that he held that was something that you did, or was it all throughout the week? So that's the big question on this Gemara, okay?
It's all Nasi.
Sorry?
All Nasi. About the Nasi. This is all...
Yes.
And it's 7 days. for the Nasi, right?
Sorry?
7 days.
In the 7 days.
Yeah.
Not wrong.
Now, generally, this whole Braita is going in the Nasi. There's a question if the end of the Braita is now going on all house of Avel. In other words, you're not allowed to speak words of Torah in any house of the Avel. So now we're just talking about that. So now we're talking about every Bet Avel. Okay? The question is, what is Shemu'ah and what is Agadah? Shemu'ah means obviously regular Talmud, regular Torah study. And the other one is Agadah, which is like the Agadic materials, like the stories and whatever. Yeah. Now, if we're talking about a regular Bet Avel, I just want to point out, lots of people say some words of Torah in the Bet Avel.
They're not supposed to.
Huh?
They're not supposed to.
No, they're allowed to. They're allowed to. I remember once I was giving a speech in a Bet Avel, and the guy, one of the people was like, "This is very depressing, Rabbi. You're speaking only about things that are very sad, and we should speak about happy things." I was like, "Well, technically, that is exactly what we should not be doing." But I said, "Look, do whatever you like." You always have people like this. So,
I missed one point. So
yeah.
one doesn't study.
No, so he moved it out of the Avel into the regular Avel's house.
So the question is, the question is what it's talking about. One opinion is that we're talking about the Nasi, and then we're even talking about on elements of Torah that are relevant to the Avelut. Okay, even that they would say is Asur. Rather, they should sit, contemplate, mourn in silence. In other words,
We obviously don't.
but when it comes to if we're saying that this is going about a regular Bet Avel, we say is limited generally to you're not allowed to learn words of Torah, but you're allowed to do stuff in what's it called in other places. Like you're allowed to learn sugyot that cover elements of Avelut. Okay. Now, however, there's one last opinion that says even sugyot of Avelut they shouldn't study. They're allowed to study them in a non-study manner. So in other words, what that means, you're allowed to give a speech and talk about these issues. But imagine the person went and gave a halachic discourse on Avelut. Why is a person not allowed to study Torah in the house of Avel? We said because the words of Torah, they bring joy, they bring simcha when a person is appreciating the whole thing. Now, imagine the guy's learning Hilchot Avelut, and he brings a question from here, and he has the other end, and he's answering from there, and it makes a whole shiur out of it. It's all Avelut, but it's already something which brings simcha.
So we don't
It's exciting.
We don't follow that.
That we do follow.
The Avel is giving
Yeah.
the speech or listening to the speech.
Either or.
So when I give you Haber's book at the city,
Now, Haber's book is straight.
It's clean now.
But as an example, let's say I turn to the back notes as a rabbi, and I'm looking through all the different shitot. I'm like, wow, this, that. That would be asur. Exactly. Calm down, Rabbi. Don't get so excited while you're learning. Stay in the morning.
Stay in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Rules, don't go.
All right, we'll continue from here. Be'ezrat Hashem, 23a1. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen.